My name is Lisa, and I'm an internal support coordinator with WEX FSM. I wanted to welcome you all to today's session of Solution Studios. There will be 20 sessions in the rotation that will cover different features of the software, and the first 4 days of the week will cover different features, and Fridays will be reserved for Q&As on the subject matter. To access the sign-up calendar, go to your Help Center and click on Search for Help, search Solution Studio, and the article will come up that contains the calendar and the previous webinar replays so that you can review them as needed. So remember, these sessions are not a replacement for customer support. If you're having an issue or something's not working in your system, reach out to customer support right away. Don't wait for a webinar. We have a whole team waiting to help you. So go to your Help Center on the bottom right-hand side of your screen and click Contact Support and let them know your question or issue, and they'll be there to help you. Please remember there's a short survey at the end to tell us how we're doing. And if there are any other subjects you would like us to include in our webinars, so we appreciate your help. So let's get started. Today's we're going to be going over job costing and how to see if you're making money on your jobs. There are a lot of moving pieces when you try to job cost, and you all will need to decide as a company if you're going to do this in QuickBooks or if you're going to do it in WEX FSM. If you're going to do it in QuickBooks, let me pull up QuickBooks. You need to check with your accountant to make sure you're doing it the way they want you to. But here are some items you'll be pointing the job to for this purpose. As a reminder, we're not accountants, so it's always best to check in with your own accountant when creating a new process. If you're tracking labor towards a job, when you do payroll, enter time, and I'm going to choose me. You can go in and point your text time to a customer and a job. So if I came in and I wanted to point this to Jack Dawson, maybe the person was on there Monday for 3 hours or 6, whichever you type in, and they were on another job on Tuesday for 7 hours. You can put all their time on there that is associated with an actual job on their timesheet, and anything that is left over, you would account for that however your accountant tells you to, as like unassigned time, something like that, whatever they would decide. But once you do this and you put this time, it puts this time against your customer job. Okay. The other thing that you would need to do is when you get a PO or you buy something from your vendor, when you go into your vendor center and you go to enter your bill, you could choose your vendor. And here's where the customer job is. So you can assign it to any jobs that are under Jack Dawson. So the only problem with this is if you buy in bulk and you have more items on the bill that go to different jobs, you're going to have to break these out. Okay. And so you're going to have to take a little time to go through these to figure out which part goes to which job. And or you can go in and you can, when you purchase only what is needed for that job and then go back in and purchase again for the next job. So you can separate them out so that you'll get an invoice from Linux for only that job, which will make it easier for you. But if you buy things in bulk, like most people tend to do, you're going to have a little bit of a time sorting these out. So as a company, you need to decide how you want to do this so that you can track it in QuickBooks. And once again, always check with your accountant to see how they want you to do that. So if you're going to do job costing in WEX FSM, there are some moving pieces. So when you added your users, you had the option of adding a labor cost. A lot of people don't really realize it's there or what it does. So let's go in and take a look at this user to Marie and see if she opens up like she was supposed to last time. There we go. Great. Okay, so we have Marie. we have her labor costs down here. So when you decide your labor cost, this is not what you charge your customer. It is what you pay out for your user. So if your user makes $10 an hour and you provide them with healthcare, vacation, their cost to you may be $40 an hour. And depending on as a company, you can decide if you want to put the individual cost on each user, or if you want to put in a cost that might be an average of your lowest paid user and your highest paid user. So you can decide as a company to do that. Once you enter this information here, once a tech goes out on a job and clicks in that they are at the job and they have completed that job, this labor cost times the time will go ahead and be entered on the job labor cost. So you can create a flat rate or something that you're going to charge your customer, but it's a guesstimate of how much the time is actually going to be. So if you're going to go out and change out a capacitor, you might consider an hour to go out, but the tech may do it in less time or more time. And so you want to be able to track the actual time that they're on the job. And that is the reason for putting this labor cost in here. So let's go down and go to the price book. So if you go to more applications and price book, my price book, and if I go to 2026 service, if you click on the details, there is a part cost on this product. If this is 0 and you add this to a job form, it is not going to bring in a part cost on your profit and loss so that you can figure out how much it is. So if you just entered a placeholder price book part and no cost on it, it won't come in. But since I have $250 on this, this will come in if I add it to an invoice. Also, for install, I have an air handler where the part cost is $900. I have a condenser where the part cost is $1,200. Okay, so I have all of these set up. So I have a way to track labor, and I have a way to track part cost. The other thing that you can do is we have the feature for POs in our system. So if you create a PO on a job, that part cost will come in. So let's say I had a part cost here for $900 for my air handler, and I did a PO as well. It would have two expenses on that job for the same air handler, but we have a very nice feature that shows you how to pick and choose what you want to use for the part cost. So you can use any combination of a part cost on your price book product or a price book. So when we came into this job, Mark and I went out to the job and we were both out there for about 8 hours. Okay. So that would be our labor cost. So if I go to profit and loss and go to see details, there's our time times our labor rate that we put on our user. And this is our cost. And it comes up here for the labor cost. Okay. So on an invoice, I had added that condenser for $1,200, that air handler for $900. I threw in a heat strip for good measure. And then I went and created a purchase order for a pad that I didn't have on hand for $300. So I have all the items that are the hard parts to do this install and the labor. Now let's say I needed a permit and I put $150 for a permit. You can add more expenses down here. And if you don't want to do the product cost at all and you just have um, a bill from your vendor where you ordered everything, you could come down here and hit new and put the whole thing down here and then keep all your price book products to zero cost and do it that way. Everybody uses the system differently, so you can pick and choose what's the least number of clicks for you. Okay. And so I put in here scaffolding, they needed a lift, and I also had put a pad in here, right? And then I went and got a purchase order for a pad. So it's in here twice. So I can do one of two things. I can either uncheck this purchase order so it doesn't include it in the total, or I can come down here and say, I put aside $250, but when I actually ordered it, it was $300. So I can delete this and make sure that my cost is true. Okay. You make any changes, always make sure you come over and hit save. And I wanted to see how you can track this as a whole. So this is how you can track it on a job if you're just looking at the job. But if you go to reporting, unable to original. There we go. And we go to the job profit report. Okay, this job profit will tell you as a whole how you're doing on your jobs. So this is any jobs that were created in March. Okay, so this report goes by job creation date. So let's say you created the job in February, but you didn't actually do it until March. You're going to have to expand this date range to find that job. Okay, so you can search by job type. You can search by job status and go by only jobs that are completed. You can search by lead source to see if your leads that are giving you, maybe you're giving your leads a spiff to get you those jobs. And you can also sort by if they're profitable or not. Jack Dawson that we had here shows it was a service. The job is closed because the invoice is paid. The profit margin was 47.89%, which is pretty darn good. This is my total profit. This is how much the job was, the total revenue, and this is my product cost, and there's my labor where Mark and I went out on to the job. Other expenses were the $1,400 that I put in there for the lift. 250 of this is the pad, so if I had taken that off, it'd be a little bit higher percentage. But I had it in there twice and I'm going to use it again, so I'm going to leave it for this time. So do you have the option to also show if they're profitable or if they're negative? So if you want to go in and look at all of your negative jobs that were created this month, you'll see that Emily Davis is in the red. Okay. You see total revenue, you see a product cost that is more than your revenue, and there's no labor cost in there. So nobody clocked in and out of the job. Okay. There's no other expenses. So if you wanted to take a look, you could come back over and go to this job and go to the profit and loss and kind of see where the problem was. Because if you're not giving a good proposal that is fairly accurate on the amount you have to spend on the equipment and on the labor, you're going to be working for free and be a nonprofit, or you're going to be losing money. So if you take a look at this, if you look at all of the equipment that they chose for this job and the part cost, it's more than what they charged for the job. And that's why it is in the negative. Okay, so you can use that report to make sure that your estimators are estimating accurately. And if it's close, like let's say if it was only just a hair under or not as much of a profit as you would like to get on a job, then you can go back, take a look at what was estimated and say, do we need to raise prices? Do I need to find parts cheaper somewhere else? See what you can do to make more money. The other thing that you may want to think about is creating an estimate checklist. That way, you know that everything that your estimator is going out, your estimator or your salesman is going out to look at on site is being checked. Because if they forget to check to see if a plenum needs to be rebuilt or a stand needs to be rebuilt, or if it's in enclosed space where you're going to need more people to get the part in there, if they don't look at that and estimate correctly, you're not going to be making the profit that you like to make on the job. They can also take pictures and put on the job so that when you go in and you look at the job later, you can say, wait a minute, I'm seeing on the picture that we didn't take into this into consideration. So under more applications, you have the ability to go in and create checklists, and we're going to go over that on another date. But you may want to take a look at the Help Center and go over checklists and take a look and see if that might be something you want to use to help your estimators make sure that you're checking everything and pricing appropriately. I like excuse me, I like checklists for everything. I think there should be a checklist for an office person who's keeping track of the install to make sure that they get a permit, that they go out and get the equipment, that they go and get the final inspection. All of that can be tracked on a checklist. And the nice thing is they live on the job. Up in here. They live on the job. And let's say you had an install checklist and the customer says it's a lemon. You have the checklist to give your vendor that says, listen, I installed this correctly. The pressures and everything were correct when I installed it. The system is not functioning properly. You have a leg to stand on. If you don't do that checklist for the install, your distributor is going to say, it's how you installed it. It's not my system. And so checklists are wonderful things. So again, you may want to consider this for your estimators, and it will help you dial in how you're pricing your jobs. Now, the other thing that I wanted to check is under settings and job settings, because depending on how you do business, you need to have this set up correctly in your system. Okay, job, profit, and loss by accrual. So now comes the question of how do you do business? Are you cash basis? Are you accrual basis? And this is what this means. If when I create an invoice, if I take credit for the sale right now, even though the sale is not paid, that's accrual accounting. If I take an invoice and create it, and I don't take credit for it until it is paid, that is cash. You have the cash in hand. That's kind of an easy way to remember it. I've got my cash in hand. I know what my sales are, and I'm good to go. Accrual doesn't care whether it's been paid or not, whether this customer has 90 days outstanding bill in your AR. You take credit for that sale the minute that invoice is created. And if you do not know which you are, check with your accountant so that you can make sure that this is set correctly, so that when you look at the reporting, some of the reporting in our systems have a little drop down that says cash versus accrual, so you can dial in your reports that way as well.